We're recording. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is a frequently asked questions session for the Little Hook Creek Wastewater Improvement Project. This is going to be something new that we're going to be trying out and doing. So this is going to be our August session, and it's sort of quick and simple. And this recording will be up on our YouTube page as well, so it will be forever available to go back and review if you're interested in this project. And just real quick, what we're going to talk about today: introduction, the schedule update. I've got sort of three quick things I want to touch on that I'm getting lots of questions about, and then I'll have more information about context. So before we jump into too much, let's do introductions. So hello, everyone. My name is Will. I'm the new project manager for this project. So this is my face, and a lot of you have already communicated with in phase 2, and then, of course, in phase 3, I'll be probably communicating with a lot more of you. But I want you to know what I look like. So if you see me walking around, typically I wear my Charlotte Water shirt, and I wear something bright orange for construction safety purposes. But if you see me, feel free to come talk to me. A lot of you I will communicate with via phone and/or email, but I always enjoy meeting people in person as well. So again, my name is Will, and I'm the new project manager. The Little Hope project is actually a 3-phase project. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of that, but we finished phase 1 before I was involved in this project, and then phase 2 is sort of finishing up now, and then phase 3 is really hopefully where I'm going to get to sort of do a little bit more than previous. I'm sort of taking over. You may remember the name Stephen Scott. He is the former project manager, and Stephen Scott is no longer managing this project. He has moved on to a different role in our organization. So if you try to call or email former methods for touching base with Stephen, he will automatically forward those to me. So yeah, likely if you text Stephen or call Stephen, you'll receive a response from me. And this is my phone number, and that's my email address. So when you also can feel free to just delete Stephen from your phone and just add me in his place. Because going forward through the end of phase 3 and obviously finishing phase 2, I will be the person who is working on this project. So real quick schedule update. You may have seen some of us sort of spot checking various parts of the project, little bits at a time here and there. But we are planning on doing a full walkthrough of the entire project. So I think we have 89 different properties we will be attempting to walk through on Wednesday and Thursday to do a final, what we call a punch list, which is where we sort of really nitpick and find every last little bit that's left to be done, make a final list so that we can finish up this phase and really be done. We're hoping to finish by end of August. So we have about 3 weeks to do that. Now, when I say finish, I do have it in quotation marks there. The silt fence, which is that black fabric on the T-posts, usually between where we were working and the creek, that still has to stay in place until we have established good ground cover and the county is satisfied that soil is not trying to actively move into the creek from our construction site. So we will remove that as we can. It'll probably be in pieces here and there. You may see that your neighbors has gotten removed, but yours hasn't. It's just going to be on a case-by-case basis. But when I say finish, I mean everything else, sort of excluding silt fence, and then obviously excluding grass seed. We've noticed that some of the grass seed hasn't taken, and so we're going to need to wait till cooler weather to put down further grass seed. So we're gonna say we're finished, but we still probably need to come back and remove silt fence, and we still need to come back and do grass seed where necessary. So don't panic if you still have a silt fence and you still need grass seed. That's definitely still going to happen. But we're going to try to finish everything else here by the end of the month. And then phase 3. If you're watching this video, then likely you're not in phase 3. But if you are in phase 3 and you're getting ahead of things, then yeah, the phase 3 of this project is likely to start in the fall. So having just taken this project over in the past month or so, I get lots of questions, and I just want to try to answer them once here so that this can be referred back to. I do have a tendency to try to do lots of education with the public when I'm doing my projects. If you recognize my face, you may remember me from South Boulevard. I worked on that project, and there's lots of educational videos about how we built that water line in South Boulevard. This, of course, is a sewer line, but I'm trending towards possibly doing content as well around, what we're doing and how we're doing it and how it all works. So one of the big questions, of course, that comes up is, well, why do you need an easement? And or, what is an easement? What are they even for? And so for the most part, the way easements work is they are places where infrastructure is placed. Property ownership typically does not change hands. And an easement is sort of a granting of the right to come and put something typically under the ground. Power line easements also are a thing. So those are obviously where you have a power line above the ground, but it's the same basic premise. It sort of gives the ability for utility to put some infrastructure where it needs to go. And so that's the tricky part, where does infrastructure need to go? That's a fairly complicated thing in most cases. I mean, obviously, you need water, sewer, power, gas, cable, internet, kind of to every house. So figuring out a way to sort of make a network to get all that stuff to every location, it can be tricky. And sewer, even more specifically, is typically done with gravity. And typically, we try to build pipes that flow downhill, and we try to build them at the bottom of the hill. And then our treatment plants are located at the bottom of the hill. So there's sort of a downward, methodology for where the sewer line goes. And so oftentimes, almost 100% of the time, our sewer lines go along creeks. And then they have the name related to the creek that they are going next to and downhill alongside of. So in this case, Little Hook Creek, which y'all are all probably fairly familiar with, it runs through the Madison Park neighborhood, and I believe Colonial Village, and some of the other neighborhoods sort of in between Park Road and South Boulevard. And it flows down towards Tybola and Park, which is where the treatment plant is. And so, in terms of where we need to get easements, we need to get easements along the creek so that we can put the sewer line in the place where it can carry that wastewater from your homes all to the treatment plant. Now, sometimes people say, well, why don't you just go ahead and own, outright own property to put infrastructure on or in? And that is true in some cases, right? So, for example, our water treatment plant, our wastewater treatment plant, and our water tower sites, those are all owned properties by the city of Charlotte for our facilities, and that makes sense. The problem is that the pipes that bring you clean drinking water and that take away your dirty wastewater, those pretty much have to go to and from every single house and business and office right in the county. So it's just no way possible to sort of own all of those easements. That would just mean that we owned everything, and that wouldn't make sense. So we get these easements, which essentially, like I said, the property owners still retain ownership. We just have the right to put something under the ground, and typically, we compensate property owners for that right. Everyone has been or will be compensated for their section of the easement we need in order to build this project. So then the next question that comes up is, so what's with the fences and the gates? And just to be real clear, having fences and gates and other sort of obstructions in our easements is fairly atypical. Having just joined this project, that was one of my first questions is, why are we having these gates and fences in the easements? And the reason that's sort of an issue is because the easement, in addition to being a place where we put a pipe, it's also something of an access road to, or a pathway to all of our manholes. So, you can tell where the pipe is in the ground because if you stand on one manhole and look back towards the other manhole, it's in a straight line between the two manholes. And so if that pipe ever needs to have any work done on it, like cleaning, or if it ever needs to have a repair done because maybe it broke somehow, then we need to be able to get to that pipe so we can keep that water in that pipe where it's supposed to be. And so again, easements give us the right to sort of construct it, but often, also it gives us the ability to come back later to do work if necessary. And so typically we wouldn't allow fences in our easements. But in this case, it was looked at and it was recognized that a large part of y'all's backyards between the creek and your homes was going to be taken up by the easement. So we made a sort of a large scale decision and exception to allow fences in our easements, with the caveat, the big caveat being that, well, if we're going to put fences, we need to have gates. So that way we can still use the easement as a way to access manholes that might be troublesome. So then people say, well, how often do we really think that someone's going to be coming back through the easement to access a manhole or to do any work on the sewer line? And the answer that we're all hoping for is never. And we do have sewer lines that are sort of maintenance free. They don't require any work, but it really kind of depends on just sort of the neighborhood conditions. So we have some neighborhoods where people have a tendency to put grease and other problematic things down the drain, and in those cases the sewer lines need cleaning more often. So in those cases the easements get accessed more, the manholes get accessed more. Other neighborhoods where they have a newer pipeline and it's in the ground, and everyone's sort of only putting water down the drain and everything's great, and there's never any maintenance required, and the pipeline never breaks, and everything is just good and fine, and no one ever has to go back there. That's really what we would like for all of our neighborhoods, but we plan with the ability to access our manholes in mind. This is a long-term sort of industry standard. If you're going to put a sewer line or a water line in the ground, you need to make plans to be able to get to it, because sure enough, the one manhole you can't get to is the one that's going to have problems, or the one water line that's going to be the one you can't get to is the one that's going to start leaking first, right? Just sort of Murphy's Law. So just to recap, we probably won't be accessing the manholes or the pipeline except under preventative maintenance or emergency situations. We do have the gates so we can access the easement, and then we've put fences in, for homeowners who have requested it, because a lot of people have dogs and children that they want to have an area for them to play in. So that's what the fences are for. So then lastly, after people typically ask me about easements and fences and gates, they ask, well, what's up with the grass? And so if you go back and look now on the easements, you can see that in some places the grass has grown, in some places grass hasn't grown. It kind of depends on shade or not shade, and it depends on how hot people's backyards have been getting. We're really finding right now that grass seed is not growing real well in a lot of places. So as I mentioned earlier, we're planning on coming back regardless in the fall to go ahead and add more seed where it's barren and where grass is not grown. Where there is stuff growing now, you'll see, I think there's one particular species. It looks similar to clover. It's not grass, but it looks kind of like clover. And of the multiple different types of seeds we put in our sort of seed establishment mix, there's one plant that has grown well. And so that's what's growing now, and it is growing. And so we're asking at this point, if it's more than ankle high, yeah, go ahead and start to cut that, and it will, cutting that clover-like substance, that plant, it'll help root development a little better. It'll help the erosion better. That stuff is actually holding the ground below it in its roots, which is why we have it in our seed mixture. And even though it's not growing real dense up top, it is doing a lot to sort of help erosion. So, but go ahead and start to cut that and maintain that. It'll become denser and thicker, and it'll continue to do what it's supposed to do, which is to prevent erosion. And then eventually, when we come back and plant better grasses, they will take over. So as I said, you definitely can start cutting anything over the easement, and wherever stuff's not growing, especially like, it looks kind of like tire tracks. It's not really tire tracks. It's just an area that was seeded and then driven over. So grass didn't grow real well, but we're going to come back and remedy all that. So those tire tracks before we're completely and officially done with the project, the tire tracks will be gone, and we'll have grass established in those two little lines. That's all I have for today. As I mentioned, I'm planning on doing these every month. But if you want to stay in touch a little more frequency, we have a web page that's listed right there. Again, my name is Will. Also, we do various mailers and door hangers to sort of try and alert specific people to what's going on. We have a text message service as well. You can text Little Hope Creek to that number there on the screen, and then you can be alerted for other stuff that's going on in the area. And then we have other methods of communicating out to people writ large. So I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to leave comments or send me an email. Let me know what you think. And definitely, if you have other questions, you can ask me in person or you can send me an email. I love to talk about infrastructure. That's why I'll be doing these. This is the August one, so the next one won't come until September. And hopefully we'll have lots of good progress pictures that we can show y'all by then. Lastly, here's our slide. It has our logos. And thank you for your day. Stop recording. How do I stop recording?
I don't know.
Oh, there it is. Okay.